Welcome to the YourTown television program. My name is Jeff Kline. I'm your host for this segment, sponsored by the Naval Postgraduate School Foundation, which brings you interesting faculty and students and research opportunities and efforts that's going on at your local Naval Postgraduate School. Today, one of our first guests is Dr. Phil Pace. Welcome, Phil.
Thank you.
Now, Phillip, we have NPS is a solid foundation, really, and reputation for adding interesting people to already a diverse community. So before we start about your teaching and research responsibilities, I'd like to learn a little bit more about you. So now you did your undergraduate work at Ohio University. Are you from there originally?
I am. I'm from the Buckeye State, Cincinnati, around Cincinnati area.
So you went to high school there and went to
high school, and then went to Ohio State and for a year, and then didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I went into the Air Force for 4 years.
Is that right? What did you do in the Air Force?
I wanted to play into the electronics, but I'm colorblind, and so I ended up...
Wait, does that mean you can't tell red wire or green wire? Or
that's what they thought.
Oh, okay.
So they said, well, you got a nice high general score, so how about a disbursement accountant, where you handle everybody's money?
Well, that's not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea. So I said, I'd be glad to do that, and at least I'll be paying, if I'm paying everybody else, I'll at least know I'm getting paid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I did that for 4 years, got out, went back to school, get my PhD. I went to the University of Cincinnati, got my PhD at the University of Cincinnati, and upon graduation, worked after that.
So what did you get your PhD in?
Electrical and computer engineering.
Was that your undergraduate work too?
Yes.
Okay. And what did you do dissertation in then?
Integrated optical signal processing.
Holy guacamole.
Yes.
What does that mean? Does that mean taking two pictures and putting them together? Or?
Kind of. You take a laser and an integrated fiber, and then you use a lot of optical components. What's really exciting about it is it's very wide band. Mm-hmm. So electronic warfare, radar, can really take advantage of things like that.
Great. Well, we're going to get into that a little bit deeper. But right after you finished your PhD, you actually went into industry. You didn't go into academia. So tell me a little bit about that experience.
Well, I worked at Hughes Aircraft Company in El Segundo, down in Los Angeles, and worked.
So that got you out of Ohio.
Got me out of Ohio, and never looked back. No, it's
a fine state.
It's a great state. But it's there wasn't any F-18 radar programs there in Ohio.
Right, but there was in California.
Was in California. So I worked at the F-18 program office, and so I did that, and then I worked there for about 4 or 5 years, and then I worked General Dynamics, Air Defense Systems Division in Pomona, California, which is down in Los Angeles.
So essentially, you were always working in aviation components
Aerospace,
in some way.
Yeah.
Well, after that solid experience in industry, what made you make the jump to academia then?
Well, it turned out I was working next to a advanced air-to-air missile program, and they had a stop work order in Congress, and that means the people don't come back if you're in that program. And so the next day I saw like 250 people gone.
Oh my goodness.
And so and Hughes was trying to buy General Dynamics at the time, so I thought, this is a good time to, we were getting a little nervous. So my wife, Ann, who I've been married to for 35 years, almost, she was looking in the IEEE spectrum and said, hey, they want some electronic warfare expertise at the Naval Postgraduate School. I said, well, I'll send my resume.
And well, thank Ann.
Yes.
For the contribution you made. And she's from Ohio as well, though.
No,
right?
She's actually, I met her at Hughes Aircraft Company.
Oh, okay,
so
in California.
Right, she's a California girl. And so we met down in Los Angeles at a beach party.
Oh, that's great. We're not going to go too much further in that. I don't know. You both
made
me in trouble.
That. Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Yeah,
that's great.
Was good.
So NPS has definitely benefited from her searching for your opportunities and coming north.
I owe it all to her.
And how long have you been at the school now?
25 years.
Well, that's and by the way, I love your tie. Let's get a shot of that. E=mc squared with one of the smart guys that actually put that on there, that sort of thing. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a tie we found in New York City.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. Oh, well,
so.
We need more ties like that out here then. Yeah. Well, now you're the director of the Center for Joint Services Electronic Warfare. What's the acronym for that? JSWE or?
CJSEW.
Oh, you don't pronounce it in one word then. You just, okay.
I don't think so.
So
Doesn't go very well off the tongue.
So for those of the audience who are not necessarily familiar with electronic warfare, why is that important today? And what does exactly that mean to against potential adversaries?
Well, that's a good question, Jeff. The electronic warfare is really using electronics for defense and trying to maintain surveillance and situation awareness and using electronic systems to do it.
So everything from radar, which transmits, to systems that receive those radar signals, to systems that receive adversary radar signals,
Exactly.
to systems that mess with adversary radar signals,
Yep.
which means we transmit different.
Anything that radiates in the electromagnetic spectrum.
And your center deals with all that aspect.
Yes, yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about some of the research areas in the center?
Well, we have a strong expertise in low probability of intercept radar and ELINT signal processing. ELINT means electronic intelligence signal processing, where you're trying to identify those types of radars out there.
So you're receiving their signals and you're trying to identify what type of ship or aircraft is actually emitting that radar.
Yes, and trying to identify those parameters of the signal for a response management.
Well, let's go back to LPI, or low probability intercept. What do you mean by that?
Well, that's a radiated emission that is very hard to see. In other words, you can see, but nobody can see you.
Meaning that you're putting radar energy out, but it's hard for them to receive and know that you're actually transmitting.
That's right. You're being able to do your surveillance without them identifying that you're out there. Because if they could, then they're going to do something else, and you really don't want them to do that. You want to.
So is that done through modifying waveforms or changing the power associated with the radar, or a combination of both?
It's actually a combination of both, as well as some other things. But the idea is to make your processing gain so high and such a mismatch between theirs that they have no chance of seeing you.
Fantastic. Now, you have students associated with the center as well, and they do potential thesis on these things. So
yes,
your most recent thesis work for your students have been in what?
Well, I had a PhD student that did some work in low probability of intercept modulation, modulation creation, and so we've got a pretty strong expertise in developing number theory and folding number theory into modulations and doing number theoretic transforms, and it allows the radar to see a lot further without having to have a lot of the losses incurred by doing such. So
great.
It's a more efficient way of doing things.
Well, now, we know how to do this. Potentially our adversary knows how to do this. Do you also think about countering this low probability of intercept radars for our adversaries?
Yes, that's the other side of the fence, and you really always have to talk about the other side of the fence when you talk about low probability of intercept, because it's who you're going against that you have to measure yourself against.
Right.
So those ELINT receivers, and so we've been looking at a lot at some of the new signal processing techniques that are to be developed to actually address those LPI seekers and LPI radars.
Fantastic. Well,
So
this is
both sides of the fence.
This is an important part of all warfare, but particularly naval warfare, because usually who finds and fixes and targets first is at an advantage in all cases for a potential conflict. And so this is just one of those areas where both preventing them from seeing you and trying to increases your chance of seeing them is a very important aspect.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Now, you have several patents to your name. Can you tell us a couple about those, and why are they important?
Well, some of them, most of them are involved in receiver design.
Radar receiver design?
Electronic warfare receiver
okay, so
design.
ELINT, so just a receiver of any electronic.
Yes,
any
wideband
signal.
electronic warfare receivers. And so there's a few in that. I also have several in analog to digital converter design, but mostly focused on receivers.
Actually, I don't think people appreciate the analog to digital conversion problem.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, that was my thesis at MPS many
Oh,
years
my
ago when
gosh.
I was a student. Yes,
How funny.
doing statistical
Yeah.
analysis in high environments specifically for that. But when we went from analog systems to digital systems, or when we find analog systems, in fact, to be superior, but we have to somehow digitize it in order to get it back into a computer, those become a very challenging
Yes.
environment.
What's the
for
most
design.
critical part of a weapon system or a radar is that interface between the analog world and the digital computers that work at the back end.
And most people don't realize that, so that's great.
It's a critical component.
Now, tell us a little bit. You have a patent, but is it also a Navy patent as well? Do you share it with the Navy, or how does
It's
that
all
work?
all the patents have been developed under Navy Department of Defense funding. So, which I'm proud to say they are part of the Navy as well.
So that's fantastic. So you're not necessarily getting rich on them, but by golly, you've made a solid contribution to our nation's defense.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That's pretty much how to summarize those. Now, you also have received numerous awards and recognitions. But one of the cool things that we've been talking around is the science and the applications and the operations associated with reconnaissance, with radar, with electronic warfare in general, is the Old Crows Association. So tell us what the Old Crow Association is, and tell us how you got the teaching award for that.
Well, that's a good question. The Association of Old Crows is a society, international, dedicated to electronic defense and command and control and things like that. So they are a society that a lot of people don't realize that the name has been around since the beginning of World War II.
Ah.
And so it's quite a society. The society itself has a lot of expertise involved from that, because electronic defense covers so much of an area. That the teaching award was from the teaching I did at the Naval Postgraduate School.
Great.
That was recognized as outstanding, and they offered me an award, and it was quite an honor.
Well, I'll reveal something else to you. My father was a member of the Association.
Is that right?
That's right. But he
Oh,
was an
my.
operator. He was a backseater of an RF-4C and worked
Oh,
a
my
lot of
gosh.
electronic stuff. So
Oh man, that's exciting.
That's how they got that in.
That's how you grew. You kind of grew up in that era.
Well, yes, I did. But now you were also a fellow of the Institute for Electronic and Electrical Engineering Association, or IEEE, which actually, in a way, with Ann, got you here.
That's correct.
So that is an unbelievable honor, because less than 0.1% of the memberships are actually designated as a fellow. So when did that happen, and was that also in recognition for your work in this environment?
Yeah, that's another good question. The IEEE is quite an organization. The status of fellow was achieved for myself in 2017.
Oh, that's right, just recently.
Just very recently. So I'm very excited to have that. It was quite an honor to receive that. And I was happy enough to say my kids were there.
Oh, great.
I was in Seattle at one of
So
the
you went
conferences.
to the conferences, right? Well, there
Yeah.
was a news release on that too, I remember.
There was.
Yeah.
There was.
Fantastic.
But all my kids were there. Amanda, Zachary, Molly,
Yeah.
and my students were there, as well as a couple of faculty, and we just had a really great time. It was really, I'd like to thank them for the support they gave me then.
Well, now, was that your lifelong contribution to the field or to the association, or sort of both?
It's a lot. It's typically the contribution to the field that you're in
Right.
terms of that particular part of the IEEE field that you're in.
Well, now,
Not the Association of Old Crows. It's kind of a separate society.
no, I understand. No,
Yeah.
no, I got the two are different.
Yes.
In fact, you represent a large portion of our professors at MPS have national awards and recognition.
Yes,
And
they do.
I'm one of the reasons I love to host this show is to highlight those particularly.
That's great.
But the other thing I like to do is reinforce the fact that we're also locals, and we make local contributions and do different things in the local community. So I want to talk about one of my favorite things, and that is your band. So tell us a little bit about how you started your band, where you got this interest, and what's your other profession?
Yes, this is my other profession. Yeah, I've been playing music quite a long time. We do have a band that we play locally, and we've played at the Naval Postgraduate School on some benefit concerts. as well as we play around town locally.
Well, so
And
what kind of music do you play?
we play music that is recent. People like Stevie Ray Vaughan, Joe Bonamassa. We do a lot of J.J. Cale. Just your typical guitar music that has fast guitar in it.
And is that what you play, guitar?
That's what I like to play.
Okay, and
Fast
who
guitar.
are the other band members?
We have a band member that plays guitar at the postgraduate school. His name's Steve Iatra.
Oh, I know Steve, sure.
Yes, you know Steve. The other two members are outside the community, Dennis Miskell, and the other one lives in Gonzales. His name's Frank Garcia.
Oh, that's fantastic. And how long have you been together as a band?
We've been together, playing together for quite a while. I don't know exactly how long, but it's been several years.
And how did you pick up the music? Was that always something you did in high school or all
Something
the way
I did,
through?
yes, I started out on piano when I was age 5 and played for about 4 or 5 years, and then I went to guitar and have been playing ever since.
Well, now, it's common wisdom that those of us humans that are good at math also have a talent in music. Have you found that to be true?
Yeah, they say there's a high correlation between mathematics and music and things like that. And I found it to be true because I know a lot of people that play music that are good in math and have that artistic part of them as well.
That is great. Well,
The
now,
idea of using one side of your brain only, I think, is a misnomer. I think most people use both sides of their brain.
yeah, I certainly do, especially and particularly to relieve one side or the other.
Yeah, that's right.
Particularly as you're applying them as well. In a way, it all has to do with waves anyway, right? I mean, both of them. One's yeah, that's exactly right. So you've been here for almost 35 years now.
25.
25 years.
25 years.
In the Monterey area. Besides playing music in the local community, what do you enjoy most about living in Monterey?
Well, I think the weather is what I really like. I think we have the most ideal weather there is.
Oh, absolutely.
In the country, and I really enjoy the job. I mean, as you know, you always go where your job is, but this was a job that is bar none the best I think that we can have, because we work with such great students. And the students are who make us. I mean, it's not us. We kind of guide everything, but the students are really the backbone of the college, university. So,
well, Dr. Phillip Pace,
20,
absolutely. Go ahead.
I was going to say 21 years. I've actually been here almost 22 years, but I've been in the DOD for bought back my other 4 years. So I've got almost 25 now in the DOD.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Phillip Pace, thank you very much for being on the show. Thank you for your contributions to national defense and the growth of the students that you have. Thank you for your service in the United States Air Force as well.
That's been a great time.
And thank you for joining us for this segment of the YourTown television program sponsored by the MPS Foundation. My name's Jeff Kline, and join us again for future segments when we'll focus on interesting faculty and students and the research we're doing at the Naval Postgraduate School.